They are on the brink of collapse because there's no leadership, there's no systemic remedies, there's no systemic reform.
Tonight, concerns rise over allegations of harassment and discrimination from the Thunder Bay Police Service.
The information from these records will help in all stages of truth, reconciliation, and healing.
Another step is taken in bringing closure to the residential school saga.
Whoa.
And this man watches over his family's trapline, but a new mining project is threatening his way of life. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. We begin tonight in Thunder Bay, where a member of that city's police services board, who is also a former chief of the nearby First Nation, says the department is on the brink of collapse due to leadership issues. Our reporter Daryl Stranger has the details.
Georgianne Morisseau says her time on the Thunder Bay Police Services Board has been appalling and disheartening. She released an open letter this week saying there have been improper investigations, tactics of harassment and discrimination by Thunder Bay Police, and failure to put in an effective governance structure despite 2 independent reports stating they had a leadership problem. Today at a press conference, Morisseau discussed the letter.
They are on the brink of collapse because there's no leadership, there's no systemic remedies, there's no systemic reform and change or anything there to empower the members of the service to be their best and do their best, which then has a significant impact out in the city, out in our community. It impacts the service delivery.
Morisseau filed a human rights complaint in October 2021 against members of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board, the Chief of Police, and senior management. 2 separate reports have been done about the Thunder Bay Police Services Board and the Thunder Bay Police Service, one by the Office of the Independent Police Review Director and another by Senator Murray Sinclair. Both found that systemic racism exists within the force. The Thunder Bay Police Services Board and Thunder Bay Chief of Police deny there are any problems. The board, together with the Thunder Bay Police Service, is working to provide the policing that our communities expect and deserve. In addition, we'd like to add that the board, with the exception of member Morisseau, is united, working well, and far from collapse. I would like to echo the words of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board. We are working together to provide a high level of policing which the community has come to expect. Morisseau, the former chief of Fort William First Nation, joined the board in 2019, but says clear change has not come. Other members of the Thunder Bay Police Service have also filed human rights complaints, which lawyer Chantel Bryson says is unprecedented.
It is extraordinary, after 20 years of practice, to see any member of a police force publicly file against its leadership and board. And it is beyond extraordinary to have 11 file against the police leadership and the board, as well as numerous others wishing to file but precluded from doing so due to a time limitation.
Bryson hopes the human rights complaints can lead to positive change in the future.
Every single complainant, as well as the 6 I turned away, only and foremost wants appropriate systemic remedies to ensure a safe and healthy workplace for officers so that officers can do their job and also be well when they go home to their families. And I think the addition for member Morisseau, and I've known and worked with member Morisseau for a very long time, and she is always squarely focused on transparency and accountability in the public realm.
In a bizarre twist, towards the end of the press conference, an unknown source took over the feed and started playing adult videos. The conference was then shut down. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Also, during that press conference in Thunder Bay, a user named T-Bay Police was overheard while unmuted discussing putting a fake name to represent their Zoom account. It's not clear if that was members of the Thunder Bay Police Service or not. We have reached out to Thunder Bay Police for clarification, but have yet to hear back. Well, it was a busy day in Ottawa on the Indigenous front. In the morning, the federal government signed a new agreement with the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. It was to release more residential school records And then in the afternoon, they announced additional funding to help First Nations communities fight COVID's Omicron variant. APTN's Fraser Needham reports.
The information from these records will help in all stages of truth, reconciliation, and healing.
That's Executive Director for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, Stephanie Scott. Thursday, the government committed to releasing more but not all residential school records to her organization. However, Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller was quick to point out it isn't as simple as handing over all records for public view.
I mean, today we're talking about effectively 11 school narratives. A school narrative may seem like a very simple thing. It isn't. It can be school enrollment and names. It can have various levels of information. The Kamloops one is rather extensive. I wouldn't pretend it to be complete, but that is one of the ones being transferred today. Yeah.
The government also announced $125 million in new funding to help First Nations fight Omicron. At the same time, one of Canada's chief medical officers of public health says he has reason to be hopeful.
Day after day over the past week, we are seeing, the number of cases flattening, at around, 5,000, to 6,000 range.
The government also says First Nations are in need of enhanced mental health supports because of COVID's fourth wave. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To the Yukon now, where in the wake of several drug-related deaths, they are declaring a substance use emergency. Here's Sarah Connors with a look at what that will mean for the territory.
After a dangerous spike in drug-related deaths in the Yukon in the first few weeks of the new year, the territorial government has declared a substance use health emergency.
It is time to rally around our communities, our friends, our neighbors, and our family members who need our support.
The declaration does not grant the territorial government any additional powers, but it is a commitment to provide a coordinated response to the substance use crisis. It will include a new public awareness campaign and expanding the territory's safe supply to communities. But Lindsay Amato, a Carcross-Tagish First Nation citizen who organized a territory-wide addictions vigil last week, says it's unclear what the declaration actually is.
It's great that the government is acknowledging that there is an emergency going on, and they are going to, start implementing more supports, start acknowledging the fact that rural communities need more services. But there's still a lot of questions, like what are the timelines?
The Yukon Coroner Service says 4 people died in the first week of January from illicit drug use. 3 more drug suspected deaths are also being investigated. Since 2016, 64 people in the territory have died from the illicit use of opioids. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Still in the north, this week, Nunavut suffered its first fatality from the recent Omicron wave of COVID-19. The territorial government didn't reveal much earlier this week as they were waiting for the person's family to be informed. Today, they expanded with some more details. Nunavut's Health Minister John Main told residents that details as part of their regular COVID-19 briefings at the Legislative Assembly. The deceased was older than 70, a resident of Whale Cove, and was not fully vaccinated. The health minister used the opportunity to stress how important he thinks vaccinations are.
By now, you've all heard the experts, like Dr. Patterson and other respected health professionals. You've heard them urge people to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Ask yourself, how many times have you heard this message, get vaccinated? And ask yourself, why do our experts keep repeating it? They share this message and they repeat this message because it's true.
And still in Iqaluit, Nunavut's capital is facing another crisis with the drinking water. For 2 months at the end of last year, Iqaluit residents had to use bottled water after fuel was discovered in the water system. Now, the fuel is back in the water. Ken Driscoll joins us from Iqaluit with the latest. Kent, thanks for being with us. Can you explain for us exactly what the city of Iqaluit announced this week and what it means for residents?
Sure, Dennis. What they announced was last week on Monday and Wednesday, residents reported they were smelling fuel in the water again. So testing by the city revealed there was some fuel in the system. They reported between 50 and 60 micrograms per liter of fuel in the water. Now, the federal guidelines say anything under 390 micrograms, that's okay to drink. Still, many residents could still smell fuel coming from the tap.
So last time there was fuel in the water, boiling it wouldn't even get rid of it. What is different this time?
Well, the boiling this time, the boil water order, it isn't for the gas, it's for the replacement water. Now, what the city's done is they bypassed the tank where they figure the contamination's leaking in, and they're piping it straight from the reservoir. They hit it with UV light and then some chlorine, and it goes right into the pipes. So basically, we're getting water straight from Lake Geraldine right into our taps. Now, the boiling is because there could be ordinary stuff you'd find in any sort of lake water could come through the system. So we're drinking straight lake water from the pipes.
Last time around, the government in Nunavut provided bottled water. Is that happening this time around?
No, they're sure not. Community and Government Services Minister David Johannesy was up at the COVID-19 briefing today, and he was asked about it. Basically, since there's not a do not consume order and it's just a boil water order, they're not going to fly in water this time. Now, there was a little good news for the water crisis during that same press conference. Dr. Michael Patterson, our Chief Public Health Officer, he let us know that this time the hospital is running as it was before the water problem. The previous water problem, they couldn't sterilize instruments at the hospital because they didn't know what the gas in the water would do if it was put under that much heat and pressure. So this time is a little better.
Well, still, a repeat of the water crisis has to have your community under some stress. How is Iqaluit taking it?
Honestly, Dennis, we're taking it like we take everything else with a heavy dose of gallows humor. One resident I saw this week, she put out a photo of one of those signs that says, "This many days without an accident," the sort of one you could see at a workplace. Days without a water crisis, 0. Days without a pandemic crisis, 0. Days without a rabid fox being sighted within the city limits, 0. Days without a power outage, 2. But the day's not over yet. So we're all just basically putting one foot in front of the other, but we're all a little worn out from this, Dennis.
I can imagine, Kent. I do love seeing those rabid fox photos, though. Appreciate you taking some time for us, Kent. Wishing everybody well up there.
Koyanamik, and when one of these crises end, Dennis, we'll get into those rabid foxes.
Thanks, Kent. Time for a quick break. Coming up, the downside of the deal signed by the James Bay Cree for resource development. Welcome back. A northwestern Quebec mining project in Cree territory has the potential to create hundreds of jobs, but it will cost at least one Cree man his family's trapline. And there is the potential for many more mining projects to come. Here's the first of a two-part series by Shushan Bacon, translated by Tom Fenario.
Japan. Whoa. Door.
This is the sort of knowledge you can't learn in school. Trapping animals is best taught on the land through observation, practice, and experimentation. That's how Ernie Moses learned. Now, he's the one doing the teaching.
No, you have to get... Opita. Don't just send out. Move it. Stay split.
Moses is what the Cree call a tallyman. He oversees his family's trap line, located near the Cree First Nation of East Main in the James Bay region of Quebec. His favorite animal to trap? The beaver. He knows his territory like the back of his hand. As tallyman, he concerns himself with everything around here. These days, he worries more than usual. His trapline falls on land earmarked for the future Rose Lithium Tantal mining project.
The project is located in the traditional lands of the Cree Nation of East Main.
Set to be built by the Critical Elements Corporation, the mine will last for 26 years and is expected to produce 4,500 tons of minerals per day.
Des avantages aussi au niveau des contrats, vraiment formation, contrat et l'emploiement aussi. Là. Donc, de travailler ensemble pour être capable d'aller chercher le plus de gens des communautés pour travailler au projet.
It will create hundreds of jobs, but 2 lakes will be drained. Environment Canada has approved the project, saying that there will be a minimal amount of environmental impact.
L'estomac a de la misère à digérer la question.
Ouais.
Hein?
Moses is about to get on a helicopter with a biologist hired by the mining company. Their mission is to do an inventory of the beaver population from the sky. From up high, he is able to see the land he is on the verge of losing, the land that served as his university, where his grandmother, Eliza Moses, taught him everything about how to live on the land they call Iqaluit, which translates as people's land.
J'étais adopté de ma grand-mère quand j'étais jeune, à l'âge de 2 ans. Puis c'est comme ma mère, j'étais adopté. C'est elle qui m'a montré tout, c'est comment vivre dans le bout. Oui, maintenant, mes petits.
Now it's Moses' turn to teach the younger members of his family how and where to install beaver traps. On this day, his grandson and cousin are on the receiving end of his instruction.
I want to teach them the way my grandmother, my uncles teach me. I want them to learn their traditional life.
The Grand Council of the Cree, as well as the Cree Nation of East Main, signed an agreement in July 2019 with Critical Elements Corporation for the Rose Tantal mine. The Cree stand to gain construction contracts, training for jobs, and an undisclosed amount of money.
I believe that the Cree Nation is a model of, what you can really bring to the table if you have a willingness to move forward in partnership.
Grand Chief of the Cree government, Mandy Galmasti, affirms that Cree leaders are determined to walk the line between economic development and land preservation.
Pour moi, les maîtres de trappe, c'est très important. Mes grands-parents étaient maîtres de trappe. Ils ont vécu toute leur vie sur leur trapline. Puis, je comprends l'importance de savoir si un projet touche quelqu'un à ce niveau-là.
Back in the territory, the feelings of peace and freedom that Ernie Moses' 17-year-old grandson feels when he's on the land aren't something that can be bought or sold, but they are certainly something that can be lost.
We can't go hunting over there for about 25 or 20 years, about around there. So they're blocking us from hunting in our trap line. So I don't think there's anything we could do about that.
In the next part of the series, we will examine some of the benefits to the Cree Nation from increased mining on their land.
1 inch, okay, from the ground.
And find out if the Moses family will succeed in catching any beavers during what might be one of their last trapping seasons on this land. A story by Shushan Bacon, APTN National News, Cree territory of Iqaluit in Quebec.
Absolutely stunning visuals there. Looking forward to part 2. You can catch that here tomorrow night. Learning about the history of the Métis in Saskatchewan is now a lot easier. Details on that story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Robert Lowe sent us this shot of bison in Fort Liard, Northwest Territories. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacob says the bison are like house pets up there, and the local airport pays someone to shoo them off the runway. Great shot. Our director Daryl even thought that could be the photo of the year. If you want your pick to be our next photo of the day, send it to share@aptn.ca. And don't forget to tell us where you took your picture. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, -8 in Halifax, 6 above with snow in St. John's. Sunny and 23 below for Nain and Happy Valley Goose Bay. 18 below under sunny skies in Montreal, -20 in Chibougamau. -15 with snow in Sault Ste. Marie, 10 below and snow in North Bay. -8 in Thunder Bay, 21 below for Sioux Lookout. -11 and snow for God's Lake and Thompson. -7 with snow for Winnipeg, 5 below and snow in Dauphin. 7 below in Regina, snow and -3 in Saskatoon. -9 in Meadow Lake and Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, minus 19 for Fort McMurray, 2 below and snow in Grand Prairie. Plus 2 in Medicine Hat, 4 above in Lethbridge. Plus 8 in Vancouver and Campbell River, 9 with showers in Victoria. Plus 4 with snow in Prince George and Smithers. Minus 34 in Old Crow, minus 1 with snow for Whitehorse. 31 below in Yellowknife, 27 below in Norman Wells. Minus 29 in Sax Harbor and Inuvik. 25 below in Whale Cove with snow, minus 28 in Chesterfield. 30 below in Resolute, minus 28 for Arctic Bay. Métis history in southeast Saskatchewan is now as close as your fingertips, with an interactive story map that walks people through time. The story map was launched on the Métis Nation's Eastern Region website. It documents the stories of elders and knowledge keepers that they've gathered over the last year. The Métis Nation's Marg Friesen says, altogether, the map offers a glimpse into the past.
You can click on a pin and it will bring you to another page where it's either the story of that family or photographs of a homestead, photographs of important archaeological sites in this area, and then it's all interlinked and connected.
Sounds pretty cool. Well, it's Thursday, and that means another episode of Nation to Nation is coming up. Here's host Brett Forrester with a look ahead.
Thanks. In a few minutes, I'll speak to chiefs from Northern Ontario who say governments are mishandling an environmental assessment of a proposed mining mega-development in their territory. And after the tragic house fire in Sandy Lake, I'll be joined by an expert to discuss why First Nations are at higher risk. Finally, a legal battle over a 170-year-old treaty annuity is headed for the country's High Court. Anishinaabeg communities have been racking up the wins so far, and I'll speak with a representative about what to expect. Stick around for that on Nation to Nation.
Thanks, Brett. Looking good. You can catch Nation to Nation with Brett in less than 2 minutes' time. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca, and download the APTN News app. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.